and he looks like if someone drew evil Robert Pattinson from memory. Hello and welcome back to another video exploring twin films. So what are twin films? Well, if you missed my last video, here's a real quick synopsis. Twin films are films with the same or similar plots produced and released within close proximity to each other by two different film studios. This is not to be confused with a mockbuster, which is a movie that is made with a very low budget, has a similar title, theme, aesthetic to its blockbuster counterpart, and is specifically made to profit off of the blockbuster version of the movie. If you, again, didn't watch last video, which you should have, I will link it in the description, but it's not required reading for today. The purpose of these videos that I'm making is to delve into these movies and see if maybe we lost some diamonds in the rough out there. Because what I've been noticing with twin films is that there is one that is usually pretty iconic or at least very well known. And then the other one kind of got shoved to the side and forgotten about. And I want to see if maybe we should have not shoved those movies aside. Maybe we should bring them back into the light, and maybe we missed something there just because they were unfortunately overshadowed by these huge cultural phenomenons. Like today's example, which is Dreamscape, which released in 1984, specifically August 15th, 1984, and Nightmare on Elm Street, which also released in 1984. Specifically November 9th, 1984. So I watched both of those movies and I'm going to recap them for you. And we're going to talk about them at the very end and see if maybe Dreamscape is better than Nightmare on Elm Street. We're going to start off with Dreamscape since that's a lesser known film. So the synopsis of Dreamscape, as according to IMDb, a man who can enter and manipulate people's dreams is recruited by a government agency to help cure the president of the United States of his nightmares about nuclear war, but stumbles upon an assassination plot. That's what you get. Let me just be frank. I was not looking forward to this. It sounded bad to me. It didn't instill a lot of confidence either with the first scene, which is literally like a woman running towards the camera and then being engulfed in flames. But because it was in like 1984 and the technology was so limited, like it was very clearly a dream, but it was just really bad green screen. So I was like, oh boy, we're in for a rough one. We start off with Dennis Quaid winning a horse race. That is literally the first scene that isn't a woman on fire. After he wins the race, there are these unknown characters who are chasing after him. His character's name is Alex. After the big chase, he gets back to his apartment, and these are the things that at this point in the film I have gathered about Alex, our main character. Apparently he's a genius who went through some kind of psychological testing, and then he just like dipped. He ran off. He didn't want to do that anymore. He enjoys playing the sax. The first thing he does when he goes in his apartment is like presses play on the answering machine. For those of you who don't know, that's like a physical box that's like your voicemail, but it's not in your phone. So he presses play on his answering machine and then starts just going ham on the sax. He also has a gambling addiction, as we saw in the beginning there. And he's like this asshole, like ladies man type character. I gathered this from the multiple answering machine messages from women who were speaking in very sultry voices and then also calling him an asshole. So there's that. And also he's psychic. So Alex ends up at this dream research facility and he speaks to a doctor named Jane who is conducting multiple sleep studies. One specific study contains subjects who experience very frequent nightmares. There's another doctor named Novotny who Alex worked with last time when he was being researched because of his psychic abilities. And Novotny explains that they want to recruit Alex for a new experiment, which, and this is a direct quote, with a little help from science, a man can psychically project himself inside the dream of a sleeping person. Then once inside the dream, he could become an active participant in it. actually be there right in the middle, could feel the dream, experience it, even shape and alter the dream itself, which sounds honestly to me like this is a twin film for Inception, if Inception had come out in 1984, but it doesn't sound very similar to Nightmare on Elm Street for me. So I'm on to you, Christopher Nolan. You thought we wouldn't find out because Dreamscape is a shitty movie? You might be right about that, but I see you and I know what you did. Anyway, Alex wakes in the middle of the night and sees two people dream linking because he's like sneaking around the research facility. It's a man and a young boy. The young boy is having these really, really intense nightmares, and it actually causes the man who's linked with him, the psychic man who's linked with him, because only psychics can do this, to die. At this point, Alex understandably tells Novotny that he's having reservations about all of this, which, again, understandable. Novotny explains that he's doing this because no one else has done it or even attempted to try to do it, to which I say, yeah, that's how Christopher Nolan acted too. Anyway, Novotny blackmails Alex by basically telling him that the IRS is going to come after him because of his gambling money that he won. So then we are introduced to someone who will become my most favorite character, and his name is Tommy Ray Glattman, and he looks like if someone drew evil Robert Pattinson from memory. I love Tommy. Just remember that, because at first I didn't. At first I did not like him, but some stuff happens later. So anyway, Tommy Ray Glattman shows up in Alex's room while he's showering and plays the sax very terribly. The noise is atrocious and the bit goes on for way too long. So in general, Tommy sucks and he is super weird. He is definitely, at this point, you're getting antagonist vibes from him. He brags about the fact that he's the pioneer of dream linking and he's super cocky and rude about it, which congratulations on being the best dreamer, I guess. At this point, Alex has his first adventure in dream linking, and it is hilarious. He's linked with a construction worker. He attempts to save him and then he falls himself. But again, it's on that horrible green screen. So he's just like, I don't know. He's supposed to be looking like he's falling into the city streets of New York, but it just looks like he's falling onto a TV screen that's too big. Next, Alex meets Bob Blair. Bob Blair is a government worker who explains that the project is government run. That's literally all that happens in this scene. We are introduced to Bob Blair and he confirms that the program is government run. And that's it. But Bob is important for later, so just keep that in mind. After a successful dream link, Alex is getting some tests done, and once he's done with his tests, he walks around the property to get some fresh air. While he's walking, he sees Jane sitting on a bench with the kid from earlier who suffers from really intense nightmares, and we learn that that kid's name is Buddy. And like every child in every horror movie before and since Dreamscape, Buddy has drawn some really horrifying drawings, not unlike these. At this point, we cut to the dream of the man who had the dream of the burning woman in the beginning of the movie. Try to keep up, please. And we're shown yet another nightmare from that old guy. You can tell it's a nightmare because it has a dark red filter on it. And I'm guessing that this is kind of the connection to Nightmare on Elm Street because there's a bunch of creepy kids singing creepy songs and saying creepy things. We find out that this nightmare belongs to the president and he is having nightmares about his responsibility regarding the Cold War because it's an 80s movie. Back at the Dream Lab, Alex decides to help Buddy with his nightmare, and the nightmare itself is actually kind of cool. Alex dream links with Buddy, and he finds Buddy crouched behind a chair. So we find out that Buddy is afraid of the snake man who's right outside, so Alex goes to check, and just as he's saying that there is no snake man, a scaly hand smashes through the window, and it grabs Buddy. Buddy and Alex escape, and they run through the house with Buddy leading. He brings Alex to a door, and the door opens to reveal complete pitch blackness with the exception of the staircase that's going down. The staircase is giving heavy Beetlejuice vibes. It's all like crooked. It's very cool. I liked it a lot. When they reach the bottom of the crooked stairs, they run through what looks like a basement with flickering lights. Very creepy. I hate flickering lights. They race through and they come upon none other than the Snake Man himself. Alex wrestles to hold the Snake Man back and he's scratched in his side by the gnarly Snake Man claws, which is crazy. And what does he have claws for? He's shouting for Buddy to kill him and chop his head off. And then Buddy successfully chops the head off the snake after a few strikes, and we're treated to one of my favorite movie monster kills of all time, hands down. I actually love the Snake Man. I think he's super cool. Since we've reached a peak moment in the film and we're over halfway through, I want to point out that this movie is a lot better than I had expected. The pacing is really good. It's got just enough whimsy and weirdness so that it doesn't like take itself seriously. And the Snake Man costume or the puppet, I'm not sure. It was obviously practical effect, but it was really, really nice. I liked it a lot. As of this point in the movie, I was pleasantly surprised, but I did wonder if the movie will keep that up, since I'm pretty sure that Alex is going to be going into the president's brain next. And I don't usually like when there's like some kind of government plot in my whimsy movies. After successfully helping Buddy get rid of his Snake Man problem, Alex is in the cafeteria or some like common area, and he's sketching a picture of the Snake Man. Tommy walks in, sees this, and takes this opportunity to continue to be a douche to Alex for no reason whatsoever. And after exchanging some words, Tommy picks up the Snake Man drawing after Alex leaves and looks at it inquisitively in a way that tells us that this is going to come back later. At a local restaurant, Alex runs into a horror author named Charlie, who explains that he's writing a book on dreams and he knows about dream linking, and he knows why the government is so interested in dream linking, and that is because they can gather a lot of intel from people's dreams, which sounds familiar, doesn't it, Christopher Nolan? I'm just saying. Back at the lab, Tommy is linked with an old woman who dies while they're linked. And when Tommy wakes up and discovers this, he is unfazed, which is unsurprising because Tommy seems like a genuine psychopath. Bob Blair, you remember him from earlier, after learning of the president's horrible Cold War nightmares, he arranges for the president to go to the dream lab to dream link and hopefully figure out a way to make these nightmares go away because it's affecting his work as the president of the United States. Alex, after doing some snooping, learns that Tommy murdered his father again. No surprise there, he's a psycho. And he meets up with Charlie again, who tells him that Bob Blair is actually using the program to find and train assassins, hence the woman dying when linked to Tommy. They're then pursued by what I assume is a couple government agents at the direction of Bob Blair. I just like saying his name. And they attempt to lose them in a crowd of cheerleaders and rowdy students that conveniently just exited a building nearby in the middle of the night and don't know what they were doing there. Unfortunately, our boy Charlie is shot and killed. Moment of silence. Who can say where the road goes, where the day flows, only time. Alex is taken to a car at this point because he's been kidnapped after the shooting of Charlie, where Bob Blair is waiting for him, and they just chit chat about Bob's desire to keep the country safe or whatever. I kind of tune out a little bit here because it feels like he's just confirming information that we already knew. He does also explain that the woman in Tommy's dream was murdered with a dream knife, which isn't technically important because we knew earlier, like I said, that Tommy had murdered this lady, but it is just so funny to hear dream knife. Dream knife was the murder weapon. I don't know. Alex escapes Bob by leaping out of a moving vehicle, and a jaunty little tune plays while he's running. He also commits grand theft auto and steals the man's motorcycle. Alex calls Jane, who tells him Bob brought the president to the facility, and Alex says he needs to go back there to help because he's pretty sure that the president of the United States is going to get murdered by Psycho Tommy in this dream linking thing. Needless to say, Alex escapes and he makes it back to the dream facility just fine. Speaking of the facility, Bob Blair and Novotny are having an argument in which Bob basically admits that he's there to have the president dream murdered. While Alex is making his way through the facility to try and find the president, he and Jane discover that Novotny has unfortunately been murdered. A moment of silence once again.
Oh, God.
Who can say where the road goes, where the day flows, only time.
Anyway, Alex then manages to find the president's room, which is conveniently right above Jane's office and also next to Tommy's room. And both Alex and Tommy enter the dream for a final showdown in which the president's life hangs in the balance. In his nightmare, the president is on a train moving slowly through a red filtered DC that has been destroyed by a nuclear bomb. Tommy enters the train, and let me just say, his entrance put me over the edge. It is the moment that I knew that I was a fan of Tommy until the bitter end.
Hello, Mr. President.
The all-black outfit and the little hop into the train window, I don't know, it just took me out. At this point, a dream cop shows up. And this whole dream sequence is like wild. I'm obsessed with it, actually. A dream cop shows up and tells Tommy to move on along, and you will never guess in a million years how Tommy takes the dream cop out.
Abracadabra.
Like, what? There is absolutely no way that these people didn't see the script for A Nightmare on Elm Street and put their own spin on it instead of buying the rights to that movie, because that is too much. It's too much for me. It's too much of a coincidence. Who would ever think of something like that? Tommy then rips the dream cop's heart out to Alex's horror and says,
Alex, have a heart.
and again, I love Tommy. He is giving such like theater kid energy here. He is just like hamming it up, and I'm here for it. He is like my new favorite 80s villain. Where the hell is the Tommy versus Freddy movie that we all need? Who cares about Freddy versus Jason? Jason can't even be in dreams. Tommy can. Tommy can be in dreams. Pit them against each other. I'd love to see it. Anyway, back to the movie. Tommy knows his dream lore. He excitedly explains that you can do whatever you want in a dream before he sicks a horde of nuclear bomb affected zombies on the president. He also conjures what I describe as lightsaber nunchucks so he can fight Alex. So he's a very creative guy, and I like that about him too. Once Alex gets his hands on Tommy, Tommy turns into the Snake Man. What a callback. After escaping Tommy Snake Man, Alex and the president continue to make their way through the remains of DC's subway, where they're chased by dream wolves and snake men. Alex is bitten by Tommy Snake, but is dream healed and turns himself into Tommy's father to distract him. Tommy turns from Snake Man into Snake Boy upon seeing his father, and my God, is it an unsettling form.
Tommy Ray. Why, Tommy? Why'd you do it? Why, Tommy?
Daddy?
This distraction allows Mr. President to stab Tommy in the back, thus killing him in the dream and killing him in real life. The president awakes safe and sound in his bed. Tommy does not, because he is dead. Alex also wakes up, just in case you were concerned about that. And the president tells Bob Blair to F off. Basically, the movie ends with Alex killing Bob Blair in a dream by, you guessed it, turning into a snake man and biting his face off. Jane and Alex are lovers. They're going on vacation, and the same guy from Jane's dream earlier in the movie, which I did not talk about because it's not that important, appears on their train, leaving us to wonder, is this real or is this a dream too? I wonder if there's any other movies that end like that. And that was Dreamscape. I'm actually pleasantly surprised by this movie. I wasn't like super obsessed with the government plot in the second half, and I feel like Tommy was super underutilized as a villain, but obviously I'm Tommy's #1 fan. But I mean, to be fair, he was so fun to watch in this movie. Like, he was just a treat, a real treat. I don't think that Dreamscape has as much in common with A Nightmare on Elm Street as Sphinx had with Raiders of the Lost Ark. I wrote here, but it is entirely possible that it's a better movie overall. And what you have to remember when I wrote that is I've seen A Nightmare on Elm Street, the original one, when I was younger, and I did not like it. I thought it was very boring, actually. So I went into this with that kind of preconceived notion that I was like, I'm going to watch this for the video, and it's been a really long time. So maybe my opinion on it has changed. But in the back of my mind, I was always kind of thinking like, I don't know, I'm probably not going to enjoy this like other people do. Spoiler alert, I did. I liked Nightmare on Elm Street a lot, actually. So I do not think that Dreamscape is a better movie, but I do think that Dreamscape was unfortunately overshadowed by Nightmare on Elm Street. I don't think Dreamscape is bad, and it makes me kind of sad that more people won't get to experience it. It's definitely the type of movie that you put on like with your friends and have like a movie night and just have fun together watching it. But it's pretty solid. Like the effects could be better, but that's not really the movie's fault. I mean, it was the 80s. The Snake Man looked really cool. I loved the idea of the Snake Man. And like I said, they didn't take it too seriously when they were making that movie. But let's get into the numbers. So the budget for Dreamscape was $6 million and it raked in $12.1 million at the box office, which isn't too bad. They doubled their budget, so that's good. I don't have a lot of information regarding reviews. So the only thing that I could really find was Dreamscape mixes several genres, horror, sci-fi, action, and always maintains a sense of adventure and humor. And I agree with that. I think that's true. The horror is a bit later for me. I don't think that it's quite as much of a horror movie as it is a sci-fi action movie, but it was still a lot of fun. My final rating for Dreamscape is a 6 out of 10. I liked it. I think you should watch it, whoever you are. Let's get into A Nightmare on Elm Street, shall we? Let's see what happened to me when I watched this. We'll start with the synopsis on imdb.com. Teenager Nancy Thompson must uncover the dark truth concealed by her parents after she and her friends become targets of the spirit of a serial killer with a bladed glove in their dreams, in which if they die, it kills them in real life. We all knew about that, though. We open with a teenage girl very clearly having a nightmare, because why are you running through what looks like a boiler room in a nightgown? We also hear spooky little chuckles from Freddie as she's running. We find out the girl's name is Tina, and she wakes up right after Freddie grabs her from behind, and upon waking, she sees that her nightgown is torn where he grabbed her. We cut to creepy children, because that is a staple in any horror film, but specifically in the Nightmare on Elm Street ones. They're playing jump rope and singing that iconic song.
4, you, 3, 4, then lock your door.
Speaking of sleepovers, Tina is having one with her friend Nancy. Hey guys, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to point out I had a story from when I was a child at a sleepover in this section, but I cut it because the video was running long and I never re-recorded this section. That's why, there's no mention of a sleepover. Sorry about that. Anyway, back to the video. And Nancy's boyfriend, Baby Johnny Depp. The girls are talking about how they both had nightmares about the same guy with a gross face, knives for nails, and a dirty red and green sweater. Somehow, they both forget to mention his awful hat. Tina has a shithead boyfriend named Rod. Rod sneaks in the backyard and runs some kind of gardening tool along the shed to make that screeching noise, kind of like Freddy's nails. He successfully scares the girls, and Nancy sleeps with him even though he's a certified tool. But I guess you're a teenager and that's the kind of decisions that you make. Rod nonchalantly mentions that he's been having dreams too and scoffs when Tina's like, really? And then goes on to talk about how men can have bad dreams too, which like no one said that they couldn't. So just like chill out, Rod. Okay. Tina wakes up to the sound of pebbles hitting her window and she tries to wake Rod, who's sleeping next to her, but he won't budge. Meanwhile, Nancy's in the other room sleeping soundly, and we see on the ceiling above her a face and hands start to like appear. And like, you've seen it. Nancy wakes up, doesn't see the face and hands, kind of like retracts, and she places a crucifix on the ceiling above her bed and tries to go back to sleep. Meanwhile, Tina is still dealing with her own issues over there, and she hears a man beckoning her outside, whispering her name, and in typical horror movie fashion, she inexplicably follows it. Once again, could never ever be me, not even in a dream probably, but the movie's got to go somewhere, so I'll allow it. She finally gets a full glimpse of Freddy, who's rocking slinky arms so he can scratch his nails along both sides of the alley that they're in. He promptly begins chasing her, and let me just say, I died laughing at this part because he runs the exact same way that I did when scare actors chased me through the streets during Halloween Horror Nights. Tina is finally caught by Freddy, and we see that she's still in the bed with Rod, dreaming, of course, and he sees her being thrown around the room and just like completely mangled by this invisible force. Tina dies while Rod sits in a corner, reaching toward the ceiling, like screaming her name. And like, I get it. There's not much that he could have done, but like, and he's probably paralyzed by fear because who expects to see anything like that in their lifetime? But like, still, I don't know. You could have done more, I think. So we cut to the police station where we learn that Nancy is the daughter of a cop. I think he's like a sergeant. I never notated it, but I did remember them. He's like got some high rank. Of course, everyone's convinced that Rod murdered Tina, and I don't actually blame them. Like, he is a bit of a loser. Like I said previously, he's kind of just a dick. For some reason, Nancy decides to go to school, and on her walk, she sees a mysterious man dressed in all black watching her from the corner of the street. She's also pulled into a bush by Rod, whose acting is something. It's something.
There was somebody else there.
He's on the run from the cops right now because they think that he murdered his girlfriend. Nancy asks Rod if he did it, and he's absolutely adamant that he didn't. Nancy's dad, I guess, was tailing her, which explains the man dressed in all black in the corner of the road. The cops show up, they grab Rod, and they find a switchblade on him, which they assume, of course, is the murder weapon. Nancy is, again, still at school for some reason. I would absolutely take this time to not do that. I don't know how you would concentrate. And she's struggling to stay awake in school, and she sees Tina in a body bag beckoning her from the hallway. We know she's dreaming, but of course, like, she doesn't know this. I still don't know why you would follow a body bag even if you don't know that you're dreaming, but whatever. I also really like in this part, there's a hall monitor that stops her, and the hall monitor, she's wearing like a green and red sweatshirt. And I love the commitment to the bit, Freddy. Like, I love that he's about his iconic colors. Nancy followed Tina's little body bag worm to the boiler room where she comes face to face with Freddy, not as a hall monitor this time. The music in this movie also really slaps. Nancy manages to wake herself up by burning her arm on a pipe and screams, causing a big old scene in the classroom. And you would not catch my ass in school again after that. Nancy goes to the jail to visit Rod and get his side of the events. She also learns that Rod has been having Freddy nightmares as well. Back at Nancy's home, she suffers a near fatal bathtub attack. So she takes some caffeine pills and goes into her room to watch The Evil Dead, which is wild to me after her best friend was murdered by a nightmare man who's now terrorizing her. Like, myself personally, I'd put maybe MTV or some cartoons on. As a side note, I know that this is like Wes Craven and Sam Raimi they do little like jabs to each other in their movies, but still, it's not practical. Wes, okay, it's not. Baby Johnny Depp sneaks into her room. He lives across the street. Remember, they're dating. And they both sneak over to the station where Rod is. Nancy sees Freddy pop in to Rod's cell while he's dreaming, and she attempts to wake him up. After seeing Tina in a body bag again, another chase ensues with her and Freddy. She figures out she's dreaming and sees baby Johnny Depp asleep as well. So they both wake up, and when they do, they race over to the police station, for real this time, to check on Rod, who the cops insist is totally fine in his cell, which... Ow! 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 Help! Help! Ow! Yeah, he looks fine. He looks great. We are now at the halfway point of Nightmare on Elm Street, and I could not help but wonder why I didn't like this movie growing up. I so vividly remember thinking that it was just so boring, but I really loved it this time around. Admittedly, I don't find Freddy Krueger, I almost said attractive. I don't find him attractive either, but I don't find him scary, and I think that's just the aspect of, like, I know that some scary dream man isn't going to come kill me in my nightmares, you know, but like a psychopath like Michael Myers could come and kill me during Halloween. That said, the effects still hold up really well. And as a character, he is a lot of fun. And I know he gets to be more fun as the series progresses. And I'm looking forward to watching the rest of these. This sounds like my final review. We still have a lot to get through. So anyway, at Rod's funeral, Nancy makes the fascinating choice to wear a blue dress instead of black. And finally, Freddy's weird hat is mentioned. Nancy's mother brings her to a facility to study her sleep. And how fun would it be to get like a little MCU cameo from Alex here? I know they released too closely together for that to be like a reality, but we need a Nightmare on Elm Street and a Dreamscape remake where they are now part of their own shared universe. I think I would find that acceptable. At the facility, Nancy, of course, has another nightmare. She's woken up by the staff and her mom, and she managed to pull Freddy's hat, his iconic weird hat, off of his head and into reality, which will most likely come into play in the climax. The thing that's crazy to me is that Nancy's mom doesn't believe her, even though her daughter's hair changed color right in front of her eyes, and she pulled a hat out of literally nowhere. Like, you think that she was just holding on to that hat just to be like, hey, I got you. No. We start to get a very teeny tiny bite of Freddy lore when Nancy's mom spills the beans that she knows who Freddy Krueger is and that he is most certainly dead. Nancy goes on like a little date with baby Johnny Depp, and when she gets home, she finds her mom has barred all the windows, including the tiny little window at the top of their like door, which took me out because who's getting through this? Nancy's mom at this point gives us a Freddy Krueger lore dump, which I'm always here for, and she explains that he murdered children from around the neighborhood when he was still alive, and that he ended up somehow walking free due to a search warrant that didn't get signed. It was overlooked. So the parents took matters into their own hands and burned him alive in his boiler room. She also reveals that she stole Freddy's knife fingers and has kept them lodged up in the furnace the whole time, which is insane. Like, how do you not assume that you're going to get haunted by keeping the murder gloves? It's just basic knowledge, I think. It's basic assumptions at that point. After learning this information, Nancy calls baby Johnny Depp and tells him that the plan is for BJD to wake her up while she's nightmaring, and she's going to pull Freddy into the real world, where then BJD can, I guess, hit him with a baseball bat, which is great plan. I'm sure that'll work and it will kill him easily. Of course, he falls asleep, and I just need to take this moment to ask, why are men so bad at staying awake? Men, please sound off in the comments and tell me why you're constantly falling asleep during movies, TV shows, plans to save your girlfriend from the scary nightmare man. Anyway, of course, here comes the iconic bed scene and BJD's death scene where he gets sucked into the bed and there's blood all over the place. You know, you've seen it. just like the hands in the ceiling. And Nancy can't leave her house to go and save him because her mom locked the door from the inside or something like that. There's bars everywhere. She can't get through it. Nancy's dad gets to the scene of the crime, and Nancy calls him to beg him to wake her in 20 minutes so she can bring Freddy out of the dream. So she still wants to go through with his plan, and for some reason is relying on her father to help her with it, even though he's given no indication that he believes any of this throughout the whole entire movie. So it's a bold move. Let's see how it plays out for her. Nancy, in the meantime, starts to booby trap the house, Kevin McAllister style, before she goes to sleep. And at this point, I was thinking, if this doesn't turn into a Home Alone comedy sequence of events with Freddy Krueger getting comically wrecked like the Wet Bandits, then that will affect my final rating. Side note, Nancy's bed looked so comfortable, and this would be a really nice place to put my Helix sponsorship if I had one. Just saying. Nancy falls asleep. We see her dream. She makes her way through the boiler room, calling for Freddy. Finally, when he's not biting, she starts to taunt him. He does a little jump scare on her and chases her around a bit more before she jumps from her window and into the rose bushes below. He also pops out of the roses, and she tackles him to attempt to pull him out of the dream. She manages to pull him out, and she locks him in her room while she screams for one of the cops to get her dad. And when Freddy manages to bust out of the room, The sledgehammer falls and blasts into his stomach, which of course I loved. This also causes him to fall over the stair railing and tumble down the stairs. It's so amazing. I'm so glad that they did this. Freddy is of course displeased by this. When he tries to chase after Nancy, he trips a wire that causes a light bulb to explode behind him. And I'm absolutely loving this. Like, how did nobody tell me that this was the climax of the movie? Like, I would have watched this years ago if I knew. Well, Freddy is like flashbanged. She runs down into the basement and Freddy chases her down there, but she lights him on fire, which of course he hates. And hilarity continues to ensue when she runs up the stairs and he chases after her, but she slams the door in his face and an on fire Freddy Krueger tumbles down the basement stairs. I love it. Nancy finally gets her father and realizes Freddy ran upstairs because he left a trail of fire footprints through the living room, because of course he did, but they're too late. And instead of explaining this part to you, I will simply show it because it had me losing my mind. After Freddy murders Nancy's mother, Nancy says, you know what? I'm taking your power away. You have no power here. It's not affecting me anymore. And she says just a bit too confidently that she's aware that this is all a dream and she wants her friends and mom back. So what she's saying, I guess, is that from the beginning of him killing Tina, this whole thing has been a dream and she wants to wake up and get her friends and her mom back. As Nancy exits through the bedroom door, Freddy lunges at her and is dream vaporized. Nancy emerges outside to a bright sunny day where her friends are waiting in the car to pick her up. The car's a convertible and starts acting up on its own, including the top coming up from the back, and it's red and green stripes. So I guess Freddy Krueger is the car now. I guess he's in two places at once too, because not only, maybe he just controls the car. I haven't looked too deep into this because I'm only just thinking about it now, because he can't be the car, but the car drives off and it has the red and green stripe on the top. But then Freddy busts his hand through the tiny window in the door and like pulls Nancy's mom through it, but he can't be the car and doing that at the same time. Maybe it's like it's a remote control, like Freddy Krueger car. But anyways, I guess that window needed bars after all, because yeah, he did drag Nancy's mom through it. Overall, like I enjoyed it. I mean, as I said earlier, a lot more than I thought I was going to, and I can definitely understand why it's number one for so many horror fans. It is a lot of fun, especially, oh my God, especially that Home Alone scene. I wasn't thinking that we were going to really get that. Like I wrote that down in my notes as like a half joke. I would have been very disappointed if it didn't pan out that way, but I also wouldn't have been surprised. But to my glee, we got a little Freddy Krueger Home Alone scene years before Home Alone even came out, by the way. So they were ahead of its time. Nancy Thompson walked so Kevin McAllister could run. I still don't think, though, that Freddy Krueger is better than Michael Myers. Halloween's still my favorite, but he is definitely on the same level probably as like Jason, who would be like number 3. Ghostface is my number 2. There were also a lot more creepy, like not creepy in that I'm going to have nightmares about it, but there's some creepy visuals that I really appreciated a lot. You could tell that a lot of love and effort went into the visual effects in this movie, and it shows by how well it holds up. So anyway, let's get into the box office numbers because this one's kind of crazy. So the budget for Nightmare on Elm Street was $1.8 million. So a very, very low budget film. And it grossed $57.1 million at the box office. So that's like an insane return on investment there. And as you can imagine, there's also a lot more to say about Nightmare on Elm Street in regards to critics. So I only have one little quote here, but I think it pretty accurately sums up my thoughts on the movie. So this is from Kim Newman from Monthly Film Bulletin, and Kim says, A Nightmare on Elm Street was closer to a Stephen King adaptation with its small town setting and invented monster myth. Newman concluded that the film found Craven emerging from his recent career slump with a fine, perhaps definitive boogeyman to back him up. So there is a ton of additional information to tackle regarding Nightmare on Elm Street, and if I tried to summarize it all, we would be here literally all day, and this is like the longest recording that I've made so far at an hour and a half. So I'm going to keep this short and sweet. Nightmare on Elm Street was selected by New York Times as one of the best 1,000 movies ever made, which, okay, yeah, I can get on board with that. Freddy Krueger is number 40 on AFI's 100 Years, 100 Heroes and Villains list for being a villain, of course. And other media exists, such as comic books and a novelization. Of course, you have the sequels and the 2010 remake, which I did not like at all. I remember that for a fact because I was 19 at the time. And so I have a little bit more of a memory on that one. And I remember thinking it was so boring and bad, but I might have to revisit it because, you know, I obviously have different opinions about the original, but the original is also a classic and remakes are never classics. So I don't know. But what I do know is that Jackie Earle Haley was a great choice to play Freddy Krueger, and it is not his fault that he ended up looking like a naked mole rat, and that's that. Anyway, my final rating on Nightmare on Elm Street is 8 out of 10. So wrapping up another twin film video. While I do think that Nightmare on Elm Street earned the win here and it deserves every ounce of recognition that it's gotten over the years and to be solidified as a horror classic, and I totally get why Dreamscape was forgotten in comparison to Nightmare on Elm Street, I do still think that it is a real shame. It's like, it's a halfway decent movie. It's not bad. It's not bad, and it has some absolutely insane moments that you can't help but laugh at. I completely cut the whole scene with the erectile dysfunction, but that was bonkers. So I highly recommend you watch the movie just so you can get that scene in there. It wasn't important for my recap, but it is a riot to watch it unfold. But unfortunately, it just never stood a chance against a heavy hitter like Nightmare on Elm Street or Temple of Doom, released in 1984 as well, which is also very interesting because they had the part where Tommy rips the dream cop's heart out of his chest. So we had not only a Freddy Krueger kind of overlap with the knife fingernails, but also the Temple of Doom overlap with the heart in the hand. So that's kind of interesting. But honestly, I have a feeling that if Dreamscape maybe had a better release date and wasn't up against these movies that ended up being like pop culture juggernauts, I think it would have stood a little bit more of a chance. I would say that they should remake it, but Christopher Nolan basically did that already, and unfortunately with less Snake Men. I would love to see a Snake Man in 2025, but not a CGI Snake Man. It would have to be practical effects or else I will be upset. I'm going to start the petition for a Dreamscape remake. Anyway, this matchup of twin films is exactly why I love doing this series so much and why I'm so excited to continue doing it. I've literally never heard of Dreamscape, and if I had, I can guarantee that I never would have watched it, especially based on that first scene, which is like the first thing that you get. But I ended up really enjoying it, and I can now recommend it to friends. Like I said, if we're having a movie night, it would be really fun to just get together, hang out with a bunch of friends, and just laugh at how insane the whole movie is and the premise and everything that unfolds. Nightmare on Elm Street is also a really good example of why I like to do these breakdowns, because like I said, I remember not liking that movie. I've said it so many times already, but I swear to you guys, I remember thinking it was so boring, and I was so young. So I was like, if I didn't like it when I was a kid, I certainly am not going to like it as an adult. But because of this video, I had to go back and rewatch it, and I found that I actually quite enjoy it. And on top of that, now I have a whole series of bad horror sequels to get through and watch and enjoy. So yeah, that's Twin Videos number 2. Please let me know if you've ever seen Dreamscape, and are you going to watch it? I feel like you should. I know I ran through the whole entire movie here, but it is really something that I think you need to watch yourself. It's something special. That Dreamscape movie. How do you feel about Freddy Krueger, and who's your favorite horror icon? Let me know all those things in the comments. And the next twin film video that I'm going to do is Gremlins versus Ghoulies. Gremlins came out in 1985. Ghoulies came out in 1986. I've actually never seen Gremlins, and I've obviously never seen Ghoulies. So this will be interesting. This will be an interesting experiment. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. You know, I'm going to say it. Please consider liking and subscribing. I would really appreciate it. It would mean a lot to me. And I'm going to continue to do more of these. I'm really, really having a lot of fun with them, these twin film movies. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, week, month, whatever. And I will hopefully see you next time. Bye. Okay, I thought I wasn't recording. Oh my God. horrible would that have been? The cats are doing cat things. I don't have Dr. Pepper Zero today. There was a sale on Pepsi Zero, so here we are. A dirty red and green. Oh my lord. Okay, let's get through this. Oh my god, it's almost 4 a.m. Let's just not forget about Ghostface. What's wrong with me?